I think coming forward now in the public sector, the main thing is that I'm proud to be a public sector internal auditor. It's not easy.
Okay.
Some people even think that it's a profession of rejects, which I don't think is the case. I always believe that where there are a lot of problems, that's where we need problem solvers. Internal audit is the protector and preserver of value on all things. And on top of that, it is important in a way that any stakeholders that wants value protected and enhanced must demand for internal audit. Internal audit is also built by people. We've got processes, 80-year-old processes that have been trial and tested years. But at the end of the day, we are people. There must be issues of personalities that needs to be considered.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to INbrief, a podcast by the Institute of Internal Auditors, where we delve into all things audit, risk, governance, and everything else in between. I'm your host, Lee Matlachari, and in today's episode, we are joined by someone with a wealth of experience and a real passion for the profession. Bokang Modise is the Chief Audit Executive at the Independent Development Trust and also serves on several high-level audit committees, including the Presidency and the South African Human Rights Commission. With over 2 decades of experience across the public and private sectors, he's played a key role in shaping the future of the profession. Bokang, welcome to INbrief. It's such an honor to have you with us today.
The honor is mine, Lee. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's start by where are you from, by the way? Where are your origins? Maybe just tell us that.
I'm born in the desert in the northwest. I'm taking out my age. It was still West Transvaal at that time. I'm born in northwest in Swaziland. It's a small town there in the border of the Northern Cape and Free State, if you want to say. So I'm born and bred there.
Okay.
So that is me. And then currently I'm here. I'm paying rates in Pretoria. So I want to assume now I'm Pretorian currently. So that is why I am from the Pretoria Regional Office.
Okay. And then where did you go to school, your upbringing? Tell us just a little bit more about yourself, just so we get to know the person besides the profession.
I'm from the Northwest. That's where I've done my primary to my high school. I think after that, early 2000s, that I've decided to take my education to the Western Cape. That time it was still Cape Peninsula Cape Technikon. And then by the time I finished, it was Cape Peninsula University of Technology. So that's where I've done my work. Initially, I was actually, my studies were actual focus on finance and technology. So I've done financial information systems there up until I finished my BTech at that point. And then I went on, come back to Gauteng, where I've done my MPhil in internal audit with University of Pretoria and GIBS. So those are the key things. And then when it gets to experience, I've started my work in the private sector at the Western Cape. So I have been involved in insurance. That was my first employer. And then I have moved to corporate firms, one of the big four. That's where I spend my time there. After I've learned what I've learned, I've decided, you know what, I think my value will be more appreciated in the public sector. That's when I moved towards public service.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then what drew you into auditing? Have you always had an interest in it, or was it a specific moment? What made you interested in maybe internal auditing, to be specific?
I always say most of the time, internal audit, to be specific, drags you to itself. I have mentioned initially I've done financial information system. I thought I was going to follow the hype of programming and typing and IT and all of those sort of things. But I don't know if I should say the spirit of internal audit or the ancestors of internal audit or the universe of internal audit dragged me to audit, where my career I've started within audit. And then, like a good arranged marriage, it ended up being the love of my life in a way that it given me opportunity to actually express and contribute to society. Because of that availability of the opportunity to express myself in that and contribute in preserving and adding value, I have now had decided to build my career in internal audit, hence went through to the master's degree and trying to go beyond. And then I've invested my time in certifications, trying to build my knowledge and skills so that when I do audit, I could do it the best that I can do it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it was just the I wouldn't say when I was in high school, I knew about internal audit and it was my dream career. I'm not going to say that.
Oh.
This thing stole me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is how I ended up. But now I love it for the love of it. Yeah.
So it was the ancestral bug.
It was ancestral bug that we're told that internal audit has been here forever. I'm sure it has a lot of ancestors. There was some sort of debates there, and one of them find out about me and then dragged me to it.
Okay. That's great. And then what would you say was the most defining professional moment so far for you? Has been the most defining professional moment for you so far in your career?
At the beginning or throughout? Or
Throughout,
first?
like your whole career, your whole 2 decades, what has been the one moment, maybe one or two, that has been defining for you?
2 decades is a long time.
It is. Maybe what you can remember, like, or that made an impact that you felt, no, I've arrived. You know what I mean?
I think from the beginning of my career, I have tried to create those internal milestone, if I may say that. And the very first internal milestone that I've achieved in my career was the decision to start with the internal audit technician course, now that is called internal auditor. It was more like I want to call it a reincarnation, moving a person from being a mere internal audit student or graduate to become internal audit professionals. So that was the first thing that I think it actually defined my interest and my capacity and ability to actually perform the service of internal audit. Throughout time, I think also once I've been moving in my career of internal audit, I think the key thing also that became more of a milestone to me is when I've started entering public sector and the activity that I was involved in the profession itself throughout my career, starting from trying to build with the colleagues some organized trainings, organized programs of going forward, whether it's a program of up-and-coming auditors, internships, and so forth. I've always been interested in that. I think that's one of the milestones that I feel proud of and proud to have spent my life on that. I think coming forward now in the public sector, the main thing is that I'm proud to be a public sector internal auditor. It's not easy.
Okay.
Some people even think that it's a profession of rejects, which I don't think is the case. I always believe that where there are a lot of problems, that's where we need problem solvers. If you go in an environment where everything is smooth and flowing, what is your need there? You need to be in environments where there's actually a need for auditing, for advisory, for governance. So when I came to the public sector, I have recognized that point, and I've tried to say, you know what, Bokang, you really have to put effort to get things from the networking and the connection that ones get and the work that we do, and to be able to have an opportunity to give back to the very same profession that is keeping us going. So now, later on my life, I think the other level of reincarnation happened to me when I got my CIA.
Okay.
When I did CIA, it was still 4 parts. So that's all I have to say. It looks like I'm going to expose my age many times today. So when I did my CIA, it was just 4 parts, those long time ago. And through that, it was another level of reincarnation, because now it provides that perspective of a global view of this one internal audit that one does. But I think I must not ignore the fact that my participation in the regions and also including in other subcommittees of the IIA also a milestone to me, because it also gave me an opportunity not only to learn and understand things, but it gave me an opportunity also to give a little bit that I could give to contribute towards the growth of this beautiful profession we call internal audit. Yeah. So there are a number of milestones there that I personalize. There are other ones, the awards and other those sort of things, more of an external, but for me, what is more important is to have your own personal targets and achieve those. It makes you a better person. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's always amazing to hear the story behind the journey. Like just to hear the lessons learned, like how the decisions you make today impact, you know, where you are in life 4 or 5 years later. And I think it's so important, which is why platforms like these I think are so important, because then you hear stories from people you can relate to, like people that look like you. So I think that's why it's so important. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So now we're gonna play a quick, just to lighten the mood a bit, and then so the audience can get to know the real you. Well, the you besides the front. It's just quick, very light questions, nothing serious.
Okay.
You just answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just a few, like 8, 9, whatever. But are you ready? It's called quick fire, the audit edition.
Okay.
Okay. So the first few are very easy. I'm sure you'll answer them very quickly. Okay, let's go. So early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
What was your first job?
I was a salesperson at a retail shop.
Okay.
Horrible one.
Okay. One audit buzzword you secretly wish would disappear?
Too much confidentiality.
Okay. A book or podcast you always recommend?
I recommend a strategic advisor book by our previous president of the IIA. It's a good book.
Okay. 3 words your colleagues would use to describe you?
Melodramatic. I'm joking. I want to believe I'm consistent and like to break the box, and then would like to hear others' involvements.
Okay. That's like 9 or 10 words, but that's fine.
You can divide by 3, it becomes 3.
There we go. Okay, the next one is if you weren't in internal audit, what do you think you'd be doing?
Maybe farming.
Okay. And then who inspires you professionally?
You won't believe my first supervisor, Andre Notir, inspired me for what he's achieved, for the personality that he shows an internal auditor can be.
Oh, shout out to Andre Baton. Okay. One thing people would be surprised to learn about you? The farming one.
Yeah, it will be. Sometimes I try to be funny, but I'm not doing good.
Okay, but you know, not too bad so far.
Thank you.
What's always on your desk besides your laptop or computer?
Some little book. Science fiction
Small
is
book.
the books that I like to read. Yeah.
Okay. How do you unwind after a tough day?
Well, my family might think I'm a bit of a loner at some point. I like just sitting quiet and listen to music, and especially on a tough day, for an hour or so. I'll spend my time with my family. It always inspires me. Yeah.
Okay. And if your career had a theme song, what would it be?
Uyithola kanjani uhlale khoneni? Because I believe in all professions, even of ourselves, even audit itself, we have to do something to what we want to aspire to. So you can't just sit and wait for manna from heaven.
You have to go and get it.
You have to go and get it all the time.
What genre of music do you like, by the way? What you like? Amapiano,
It depends on the mood.
R&B.
It depends on the mood.
Do you listen to everything?
I think I listen to most music. Jazz sometimes, depending on the mood. And you won't believe sometimes I do listen to gospel. But it just depends on the mood. But I think I always believe that music is there to regulate our mood. If I'm down, there's some R&B soul that I would want to play to up me a bit. When I'm happy and excited, I can do house and my piano, dance there with my children. And then when I want to be relaxed and calm, I do some jazz and all of those.
All rounded.
Yeah, I love
individual.
music. Yeah.
Uh,
You can bring new music. I can listen to it and find a mood for it to listen to. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Okay, yeah, that's all. That's all the
Oh,
questions.
thank
You
you.
did well, actually.
I almost
Was
touched
it
you.
I
I was
thought
like,
it never ended.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's over. Okay, so now we can delve into the heart of what today's conversation is about. As you know, May is Internal Audit Awareness Month, and yeah, so we're spotlighting industry leaders like yourself, who are shaping the profession.
Yeah.
Just to explain what they think. So I'm gonna start with asking you, in your own words, just to describe what you think. Well, how would you describe internal audit, like and on why does it matter? What Because I know a lot of the times people misunderstand what internal auditors do. So how would you describe it to someone who doesn't know what internal auditors do or what internal auditors are, and why do you think that matters? Why it's important to explain to people, whether within the organization, whether outside? Why is it important for people to know what internal auditors do?
Yeah, I think for me personally, if I had to explain internal audit and the why part of it to somebody out there, excuse me, I think for me, internal audit is the consciousness of business. I'm saying consciousness of business in a way that internal audit ought to serve different stakeholders. From business itself to succeed, yes, but internal audit has also a duty to protect society from business and business from society. They also have a role to provide that protection on the environment that business or organizations operate. So I think internal audit is very important because to all members, like a body, there are many different parts or members of the body that have to work together to achieve a particular point. For me, I think internal audit is one eye of the body. One eye in a way that they have to be able to see in the future where the organization have to go and what is the impact of that direction to society, to the environment. And they also have to make sure that they have an eye that can be able to have some portion of memory of what has happened before in a way that they need to be able to learn from the past. I'll make an example of this current buzzword of the state capture, where was the auditors and so forth. I think that question on its own, for me, it's a good question. Finally, it's a pity that as humans, we have to learn through pain. It had to happen that we had state capture, we had things that are happening on the private sector, the Steinhoffs and all of those sort of things. For the society to understand that if you are going to close that other eye that is honest and truth about what is happening and what will possibly happen in the future, you are going to suffer at some point. And that suffering is happening. We have lost billions, and society is still trying to understand, to say what is the benefit of the current systems that we have, democracies and so forth, if it's not taking us to the point where we become a happier person in the world, and making sure that we have a happier world and connecting to nature and so forth. So I think internal audit importance in all things is for that element that tells truth to power. And it is good that in a profession of internal audits, we are set up in a way that there are processes and systems and tick sheets and quality expectations that one have to go through to come with opinions and advisory and so forth. In a way, they force you to prove that whatever your perspective is as the profession in internal audit, it is based on honesty and truth, at least for that current moment. So I think in a nutshell, internal audit is the protector and preserver of value on all things. And on top of that, it is important in a way that any stakeholders that wants value protected and enhanced must demand for internal audit. Because things can go on. You can live with one eye. Some people can live with no eyes at all. There's still progress, there's still life. But I want to find out, if you could choose, would you want to live with two eyes or one
Or
eye,
one eye.
and accept whatever the II is seeing? So it's that additional thing that people might not think is very important. You can still have a driver's license with one eye, but I'm sure you could be a better racer, a better driver if you have all the perspective.
Exactly.
Sometimes we're the bearers of bad news. Most of the time we're the bearers of bad news. And as humans, we like to kill the messenger. So sometimes you might be in that firing light because you are the ones who expose the actual truth about matters. But the truth is necessary early because it gives you an opportunity to act and correct. So internal audit is important in the day because it will assist adjust the direction of all things, organizations, societies, and so forth. Hence, that is why I feel like my contribution in internal audit actually is contribution to society.
To society. Yeah. So also, why do you think it's important to create a broad awareness of the profession, so that everybody knows within the organization exactly what is the importance of it?
I think
Keeping people informed.
yes,
of
it's
what you do.
extremely important based on the response that I've given because it gives people an opportunity to know what is actually happening. And when one knows what is actually happening, they can make better decisions, and go forward. So I think the society should be aware of the role of internal audit because of that opportunities is provided. It gives you the truth. And to be able to trust anything, the truth must be able to come first. So I think the awareness of business, clients, societies, customers, creditors, debtors, and so forth that are involved in this value chain of business ought to demand internal audit because of that opportunity. If they want to continue with a blind narrative, they can still do. They will still continue. They will ban in the future and they will ask, where is internal audit after 2 billion rand of value have been lost? But for them, if they want to go towards civilization, where people are more happier, they live longer, they get better services, and they get that purpose of living easier, they will demand that there must be somebody who's going to be honest, tell us the bad news. If there are good news, confirm the good news, and so forth. So that is the main thing that one would want for the knowledge and the advice that they get when decisions are made.
Okay, so the next question is, what role does internal audit play in building public trust and accountability? I think especially in the public sector, because that's where you are currently.
Yes.
Yeah, so what important role are they playing to build public trust?
You know, when it gets to public sector, it's a kind of an environment which has influence on all things. All policies, including policies that guide private sector, are created by policymakers that are within public sector. The implementation of environments where society can do business, society can live, interact, and so forth, it is created by the public sector through their policies, through their services, through their platforms, and so forth. So the public sector internal auditors are so crucial because without them succeeding, we'll always be stuck in an era where value is being forfeited. Nothing changed year after year. We still have a long, wasteful expenditure, numbers that always will receive from the Auditor General. We will still lose value of our pension fund through private sector, whatever private sector does, that actually makes sure that we lose a lot of value, like Steinhoff's and all of those sort of related cases where society actually lost value to a particular individual. So those sort of things are things that I think are very crucial for social enhancements and also very crucial for the enhancement of human. Example, in South Africa, you will look at now, you will hear a lot of people who talk in the buzzwords, generative technology, artificial intelligence. But you will find out that on the third industrial revolution that is behind us, there are still so many things that are advantageous at that point that we still need to do. Automations, connections, we haven't even done Internet of Things. So all of those sort of things are the things that internal audit should advise the stakeholders to consider with the aim that we'll have a more valuable life going on. We understand that there is profitability that needs to be done in the world that we're living in, which is globalized. We understand that there are some sort of expectations that we have outside our country and so forth that have to do with our stakeholders there. But we must always understand that we have issues that are internal. And I always believe that internal audit in South Africa or in Africa ought to focus on that narrative to say our environment is quite different. What we need to do is different. Our people are still behind. We need to provide those advices and so forth. The disadvantage, which I might say, hopefully, which will change in the future, is that internal audit, they might have all the information, but they still don't have enough teeth to be able to make a mark. Like I've said, people learn through bad experiences, which is unfortunate most of the time. So if you are going to have those findings that are coming out of things that could have been improved or things that could have been avoided, just ending up on the report, there is not going to be such impact. So I think that is the challenges that we need to work through in the profession to make sure that we become better service providers or advisors into the whole value system of economy and society. Yeah.
And what would you say are the some of the unique challenges and maybe opportunities that you face when you're leading internal audit in an organization such as the one you work for, specifically unique to your situation in the IDT? Yeah.
My environment that I'm currently working in is one of the complex environment globally, is construction. Second of that, it's construction of social infrastructure, which actually brings back the control coming from the stakeholders that we have, which is society, which actually the impact of our success and failure is felt directly by society. If we fail to deliver a police station, or fail to deliver a hospital, or fail to deliver a clinic, the impact on that particular society is heavy. People can die, people can lose and end up doing things that ought not to be done legally and end up in jails and so forth. So it is important for us to be able to create an internal audit that can be able to navigate on those tough environments. So when you say the challenges that we deal with every day is that our output in our organization is directly impacted by the public. And on top of that, it has so many dependencies onto the public. I'll make an example now. We have the so-called construction mafias that are all over, trying to make sure that projects take long, projects are more expensive than they ought to be. The money that could build 5 hospitals can only bring 2 at that moment. With the backlog that we have, the life expectations that we have, it's very difficult environment for internal auditor to say we have made an impactful outcome that is tangible at the current moment. So as an auditor in that environment, you have to understand that your action might not have an impact today. It might have an impact in 2-3 years' time, where projects get faster or get slower. So in that environment, it becomes difficult to judge your KPI and your outcomes as a internal audit function, because you want to see less waste, you want to see efficiency, you want to see quality of the outcome that we do. When you want to build a hospital, it must last at least 50 years plus. You don't want to have cracks after 5 years and so forth. If there are no cracks, nobody's going to recognize. But as soon as there are cracks, then
that's when people,
So the challenge is that you need to understand as an auditor that if you are driving on a distance road and all of a sudden the reserve light for petrol comes in or the engine light comes in, doesn't make you happy, right? You get upset. But it is what it is the truth. So as an auditor, you become that dashboard. The challenge is that when you mention things that are important, they don't make people happy. That's a fact. It's a challenge that we have to live with, that we are not in it for fame and fortune. So it creates challenges if you're a person that wants to have tangible outcome. We all people wants to contribute. If you feel like your contribution is not showing, it might discourage you. But I'm just saying, in that unique challenge, don't be discouraged. Like a bamboo, one day it will come up and
It'll,
to blossom. Yeah.
that's great. And then speaking on that topic, what are some of the myths and misconceptions that really irritate you that people have about internal audit? I'll tell you one first that I've heard is that now that you mentioned the dashboard thing, is that they like saying internal audit only come to show faults. Like they're only there when there's something is wrong.
Yes.
That's when you see them.
Yes.
When everything's well, you don't see them. So yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And which is like on that myth, like you say, if we are doing internal audit right, we want to highlight things that are going right so that they can be maintained and enhanced. We want to mention things that are not so good so that they can be improved. So I think maybe on our side as auditors, we need to always appear to be providing that balanced view. Although it's difficult if everything is going wrong
Yeah.
in a particular
There's nothing
situation.
you can do.
It takes time. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have to mention good things, the report will be like 200 pages. So we try to focus on things that I think are important. But yeah, you are right. We don't only come on the desk. What I think is another myth that worries me when people think internal audit is a silver bullet, that it will solve all their problems. It will predict the problems of the future. It must have avoided the problems of the past.
Of the past.
And then only to find out when you look at the budget contribution of internal audits, it's like 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
When you are lucky in an organization, it's very difficult that the 98% can expect you to do that when there are so many things that are involved when ensuring assurance. For instance, auditors, we only depend on what we can obtain and analyze by the nature of our work. And then you'll find out management in environment, there are so many things that are not written, that are in the mind of managers, that influence their decisions and so forth. Things that you can analyze only later on when the impact comes. It now becomes as if, why didn't you say it at that point? And the other myth is that internal auditors are not psychics. They don't know what people are thinking all the time. We try to be psychics, but I don't think all of us are. So it's a myth that you must understand to say internal audit is also built by people. We've got processes, 80-year-old processes that have been trial and tested, yes. But at the end of the day, we are people. There must be issues of personalities that needs to be considered when you meet internal auditors and so forth. There are so many myths that I think we'll never get.
It'll take the whole day.
Yeah.
Okay, and then in your view, how can organizations better showcase the value of internal audit to leadership and stakeholders?
I think the things that keeps them awake at night, our leaders and our stakeholders, those are the things that we need to also put our mind onto. I think relevance is very important. I want to tell you, whether we like it or not, whether we are a good person or a bad person, you want to succeed. All the managers and the leaders in our organization, they want to succeed. They might not know how entirely. They might not have an eye to look at the risks of the future and try to consider how can we manage our way through this thing. But they want to succeed. If you focus on what they want to achieve, which is common to us, they want to achieve their objectives, they will be able to be accepting of you. And then on top of that, try not to be too much of a perfectionist as internal audit. It will frustrate you because some of the organization have to go through the journey. We know we have to automate. We know all things, controls must be, preventative controls must be there, detective, they must all work like a machine. We know we need to add artificial intelligence for predictions and so forth. But we need to understand that we serve different organizations. We need to align with them. Your recommendations that you give, your advices that you give and insight, it has to be aligned to organizations. And the stakeholders will say, no, this person is with us. They bring in the view that we know. now we can trust the MOD. I think that is the main thing that head of units and executive have to create an environment of.
Yeah, okay. Great. You're currently involved in several audit committees and advisory boards. So how do these roles shape your perspective as a leader in internal audit?
I think they provide a diversity of what is happening out there in organization. Some of the committees that I serve are more for matured organizations that have worked on their processes automated. Some of them are still at the initiation. So it gives me a perspective to understand the levels of maturity and how to navigate through those levels of maturity while making sure that you show that internal audit's job of advisory and insight is very critical to decision making. So I think it gave me a additional eye and understanding of my current work as well, to say there are different types of people, different types of processes, and so forth that one needs to consider in their audit work. So that diversity of knowledge, I think, is the critical asset that I've achieved.
And then what leadership qualities would you say you think are most important for internal auditors who want to rise into senior roles like yours?
I didn't know I'm in senior room.
Well, you're CAE. That's something.
Yeah, it is something I believe. I think we have to understand as up-and-coming or professional auditors that internal audit has some element of a calling. You must love the profession. You must love to add value to organizations. You must love to have inquisitive mind, investigative mind, analytical mind, and all of those sort of things. If they become your nature and things that you love, it becomes easy to do audit. With the right skills and the tools and the support that we get through training and so forth, it can be able to take you to the next step that you need to be. It is slow, it takes time, different environments, different elements that one have to go through. But once you focus on the why do we audit and your personality to align to the wanting to audit. There are people that are, to be honest, there are people that are in internal audit, but when you talk to them, you can tell these people are good people, but I don't think their ancestors of audit have captured them as yet. They don't understand the value of slow dashboarding, the importance of making sure that you give that bad information and be associated with the myth you said, be associated with bad news. So I think we have to go through that journey and be comfortable with that as an auditor. And on top of that, you need to understand that audit is a relationship business. No one man can be an auditor. It doesn't make sense. You must have a preparer, reviewer, and a second reviewer at the least. So you need to be able to go into other people's minds, get their skills out of the teams. Don't try to be too clever. Actually, I'm not the cleverest guy. I know other people that are clever, that are junior to me at work. So I leverage on that knowledge. You must be able to take other people's thinking and skills to bring it together and go forward. Because at the end of the day, an audit is a team sport.
Yeah. And then what advice would you give to those who are considering getting into the profession of internal audit, maybe youth or just professionals who are thinking of getting into internal audit as a professional? What advice would you give them? People who are just starting out or considering it.
I think I want to put it blunt there, and I know I'm at a risk of other properly paid auditors to say, don't do it for the love of fame and fortune, right? Because you may get it, but it's not a given. Do it for the love of value adding, investigative, and the love of doing good. Doing good is not a easy spot. It's a difficult spot because most of the people, 90% of the people, if environments allow them, they will do bad. So you have to be consistently that 10%. Love your value. Do the work that you need to do. Look at your personalities. make sure that you are aligned to personalities of audits of honesty, integrity, inquisitive mind, and all of those key things that one needs to have. After you have decided on that, develop yourself in the skills of audit, of how to become a good internal auditor. And the nice part about audit, because of the guidelines, the legislature, and the 8 years of the profession, we have managed to develop good tools and processes that are consistently growing. So it's easier to become an auditor if you have the character to become it. And I want to say that there are people that might have studied internal audit and are doing good into audit. It does not necessarily mean you have to end up being an auditor. In my life, I have met many people that are so frustrated with the process of audit and so slow. They are good internal auditors, but the love of it, they get frustrated by these challenges of pushback that they receive, information not provided, being literally lied to sometimes by your clients or misinformed. So you need to be able to understand that's the waters that we swim in. So you must not have a problem with that. I have seen people that get so upset that their recommendations were not implemented by management in a way that they feel valueless. And I always say, if you're an auditor, you're a dashboard. You can ignore. How many people ignore the oil tank up until the car is broken?
Yeah.
And then how many people ignore petrol? I've seen people pushing cars on the highway.
I know my car. Yeah,
I know my car can push 80 Ks. Yeah. So there will always going to be those sort of people, but don't feel bad if you realize that the value that you add is there. But I'm always going to say there's always going to be somebody that sees it. Even when bad decisions are made, when reports are made by audit, they cannot claim ignorance. You have done your part. In the future, it will show. So I'm saying to the youth, love the profession. You won't be poor, but don't expect to be rich. You might be rich. Don't expect to be rich. I don't think internal audit is the highest paying job, I think. Sorry for those that are paid a lot. But with the love and the understanding of the profession and the patience to go through it, I still believe that we can get good future internal auditors. Our young professionals, which we also work with, they are very bright, I think forward, bit different to us. Luckily, they don't have a advantage. Maybe it's because our teachers were Bantu educated.
Yeah.
They don't have those sort of challenges. They are more liberals, and I think they can take internal audit forward. So I'll advise them to say, be sure you love audit. Now, forget your marks, forget your whatever job availability. Love the profession, and it will love you back.
Yeah. I think one positive thing that I just want to add to what you just said is that I've noticed that with internal audit, when you work, especially for young professionals, you get to understand how the whole organization works.
Yes.
You know, not just one. Like me, maybe I'm in marketing. I only know my department. Yeah. The positive thing about internal audit is that, especially if you're still starting out, you get to see how the whole organization works.
Yes.
Which I think is an advantage when you're starting out, in case you want to change things. But so you
Go
know
forward.
how other. So I think that's another advantage that.
Yeah. You know what you're saying? It could have been quite if we say all the people must start in audit in organization, even for a year or two. Because like you say, you understand the whole value, the connections, how it needs to be connected.
How everything works.
And the most importantly, you understand why organizations exist and what they're trying to reach. That is your core job. So it always gives that advantage. That is why you find out most of the people, even today, they still resource executives and managers from internal audit because they have to understand all things, their job. So I agree with what you're saying. Yeah,
it's definitely
a key advantage.
Yeah.
You must know marketing, finance, HR. You must know everything.
Yeah.
And you fit in any industry. So, and another part is that as long as there are people and as long as people want to organize, whether they want to do bartering, whether they want to trade or whatever, there is still going to be a need for internal auditors.
Yeah.
Because people are people. There are always people who want to take advantage of situations, that want to eat more than others. So internal audit provides that basis of civilizations and sort of fairness among the processes. So I still believe that it will exist forever. As long as people want to civilize, there'll always gonna be the need for internal
For internal
auditors.
auditors, yeah. That's why you get a lot of CEOs as well that come from internal audit because they have a holistic view
Yes,
of
yes.
companies or organizations, which makes it a lot easier.
Make it a lot easier because internal auditors, in fact, our only client in organization is the CEO. It's just that we look at other managers because they are delegated that role. So as an auditor, you're actually a CEO
Yeah.
in a way at all chances,
all times.
just focusing on a small thing.
Yeah. So what do you think the future of internal auditing looks like in South Africa? What's next?
The future is great.
It's great.
Why do I say the future is great about internal audit is that internal audit is a behavioral profession. The world is growing. There are more people, bigger companies with bigger impact. Society is still thriving. There is always that need for an eye that is going to say things are fair, things are done equally. Even when you bring in technology, there's always somebody behind technology who's going to take their ideology, their idea, and their objective. And some objectives are conflicting. So in that conflict, it becomes a process of the need for somebody who can provide that advice. Like many people, many organizations listen to auditors. Hence, they become big organizations that have stock exchange growing. Many organizations don't listen to auditors. Hence, they become in the whatever they are becoming now. I'll make an example. Not as bad. I know people that work for internal audit in ESCOM that I really respect. But I want to say, if ESCOM has such a big group of internal auditors, how come we're still having load reductions with a new name? So those sort of things show that even though they are auditors, there are still some people that will decide not to listen to internal auditors. But it will happen forever. So we are here for people who want to listen to us. And those people that listen to internal audits, most of the time, they become better business people, better government officials, and they deliver whatever they want to deliver most efficiently. Yeah.
And if you could change one thing about how the internal audit profession is perceived, what would it be?
You know what? I wish internal audit could be perceived as part of society rather than only part of business. I'm saying this based on what I've said earlier. We ought to protect profitability, obviously, yes. We have to provide protection on the environment and the society. A lot of the time, I think is maybe because of awareness, which we need to enhance as a profession, is that society, they don't understand what more they could get. If they had just demanded in government, in municipalities, that they need to be internal audit unit and make sure that they monitor and make sure the internal audit unit is just not just people. It's skills that are correct, it's number of right people, it's the right technologies and support that they need to achieve. If they could do that and demand more of efficient internal audit, I want to believe that South Africa could be a little bit of a better place. A lot of those millions and billions that have been lost through inefficiencies and intentional misconduct, they could have been reduced because things will have been said before in reports, but no action has been done. If society demanded that, if you're a counselor, every time, what are the internal audit findings? You tell us, what are you doing with it? We might get much better service. Just my view.
Yeah. And then what could members of the public and professionals do to better support the work that internal auditors do?
Well, it was already started. I'm happy that, particularly in public sector, the question came out of where were the internal auditors when all these things happen. For me, I'm happy that it was asked that question, because now the society will understand that if internal auditors was there, they could have prevented or reduced the impact of the negativity we are suffering. They are going to the right direction. I just hope they could ask that question earlier before things break down, to say, do you have auditors? And those auditors, are they fit for purpose? Can they protect us from all the bad things? Or can they at least warn us in advance so we can act? Society needs to demand this sort of things. They shouldn't only demand the profitability marks and the KPIs. They need to make sure that governance, and whoever is involved in governance, is properly maintained and resourced to achieve value.
Yeah. Okay, and any final words or reflections you'd like to share with fellow internal audit professionals or just our viewers in general during this internal audit month specifically? You know, anything you want to share with them, any message?
Yeah, well, internal audit month happens in my birthday month. That must mean something.
Yeah.
So I think to all internal auditors out there, I want to say that be brave. We're internal audits, wire. We're not going to be able to go back on this particular calling that we have. We are quite a few people in the world, even if you look at the certifications, and even in South Africa, out of how many millions, 60-something million, there are less than 15,000 registered auditors. And we have a big role to play in the society. Small as it is, the size of an eye in the whole body, and the impact of it, just try to have a blowhole in the eyes. Then you realize that one eye is important. So we have a big role to play. We need to be able to understand that role and not give up on it. When we speak truth to power, maintain speaking truth to power. You'll be bullied, you might be fired, you might be shot at, which is what happens this day, but it's part of the job. We just hope and pray that the profession will be able to protect us more as members, but the most protection that we need is from society. Because if auditors are being shot at, poisons and so forth, it will be society members that are doing that thing. They need to understand that importance of us being existing. So for us as auditors, it's our job to make sure that they understand that, especially in the May Awareness Month. We need to speak as much as we can. Don't expect 100% people to hear you. We are auditors. If 10% can hear you, you've done a good job. So scream out there, let them be aware, and then we might just have a better profession. We've been here for long. I believe we'll always be here as long as there's a human being and there's a greedy somebody there, and you'll always find good population of greedy people that are trying to take advantage of systems. So auditors are the ones that are standing between those people and the society to protect. Keep staying there. It's painful, but it's worth it. You know.
Okay, that brings us to the end of the conversation. It wasn't so bad.
It wasn't that horrible. My heart was beating, but thank you very much, Lee, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for
making me
coming.
say something.
Yeah, thank you. This has been so great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of today's conversation. If you found this episode insightful, please remember to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share and help us spread the word within the internal audit community. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep moving the profession forward. Bye.